Slavery is back.
Welcome to a place where private business profit from a captive labour force, yet pennies are spent on medical services to a population in which the Indigenous, the poor and the mentally ill are overrepresented. Where isolation, humiliation and degradation are facts of life. Welcome to prison.
It depends who's telling the story, I suppose. The prisoners would have one view, the people who work in the prison system would have another, and I think it's up to people to decide where the truth is.
Give government propaganda and the media spin doctors the flick. And check out Doin' Time for news, views and tunes on prison issues from Guantanamo Bay to Christmas Island to prisons and detention centres everywhere. Every Monday at 4 p.m. on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
Hello and welcome to the Doin' Time show. This is 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au. This is Marissa and I'll be taking you through until 5 o'clock this evening. And a warning that there may be or there will be images, audio images of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples that have died. Hopefully we will be able to bring you an interview with Keith Munro, who is the Aboriginal co-chair, Friends of Myall Creek Memorial National Committee, grandson of Uncle Lyle Munro Sr. And we're having a little bit of trouble getting organised and trying to find Keith. And I'm not sure what's happened. We've had some technical difficulties, but hopefully we'll be interviewing him next. And it'll be a continuation of our discussion from last week when we spoke with Cecilia Blackwell, who's also co-chair. And I'm delighted to hopefully welcome Keith onto the show today to talk about the Myall Creek Massacre also, and to publicise a very special annual memorial. And we'll then interview Alan Mabry, Senior Lawyer at Environmental Justice Australia, about a very controversial bill introduced by the Andrews government, which would see draconian anti-protest law, criminalising peaceful protest. And I think we'll just check in and see what's happening with Keith.
Do you have a few children's picture books or footy boots that your kids have outgrown but want to find them a loving home? Well, drop them in at 3CR and put them in the Books and Boots bin. Books and Boots regularly sends pre-loved children's picture books and sports footwear to remote and regional First Nations communities and children across the country. Contact us at Books and Boots or go to the website www.booksandboots.org.au. We love a good book.
And you're back with the Doin' Time show. And it's so wonderful to have Keith coming onto the show after all. And before we speak, I just wanted to give a little bit of introduction. So each year, hundreds of people from across the country gather on the Sunday of the June long weekend to commemorate the unprovoked massacre of at least 28 Wirra Zara's women, children and old men by a group of stockmen on Myall Creek Station in 1838. And I will check that pronunciation with Keith in a minute. The Myall Creek Memorial on the road near Biara was erected in June 2000 by a group of Aboriginal and non-Indigenous people working together in an act of reconciliation. And indeed, in 2008, the massacre site and memorial were included on the National Heritage Register and also received New South Wales State Heritage listing in 2000. I've always loved interviewing Keith. In fact, I really enjoyed his company. I think it might have been about a year ago where we did some work together and did an interview about the memorial coming up. And Cecilia was great last week, but we wanted to also speak to the Aboriginal co-chair as well. Hello, Keith. Welcome to the program.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful. I'm all right. Yeah, I just wanted to double-check that pronunciation with you, Keith, in terms of the lands that the women and children were on with the massacres.
Were you right?
Yep,
It's a bit of a tongue twister.
it is.
But they are a clan of the Gomeroi Nation.
Thank you so much. And what land are you from yourself?
That same country.
The same country.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. It is a bit of a tongue twister. I mean, I've looked at quite a few lands here, and honestly, I've never been able to pronounce this one. So I've got to get better.
It's we have, so when you're looking at Aboriginal languages, like trying to interpret that within the English context is, it's probably not. Like, in the English language, there's 5 vowels. In Gomeroi, there are long vowels and short vowels. There's prefixes, and it's a lot to take in actually, and trying to remember and whatnot. So it's a challenge, especially for a lot of our local community members who are possibly learning language for the first time or are having it passed on by family members. So it's completely understandable.
Language is just so important, isn't it, Keith? And even in regards to the fact that not only were First Nations people robbed of their language during colonisation, but, I think language should be taught in schools, Indigenous language.
Language is being taught in some schools. So in New South Wales, for the very first time this year, the Lumbangare language has been taught up on the Mid-North Coast. Completely immersive for a new school that's just opened up there, I think K to year 2 or 3. Next year that will expand. In New South Wales there's legislation in support of New South Wales Aboriginal languages, and I do agree though that there is a lot still to be done in that space, especially when you think of the unique inherent value that it has in all of us understanding that the places in which we live, work, travel across this country. So I 100% agree with you on that.
Absolutely. I mean, even when I'm travelling, say, going to a regional Victoria or another part of Victoria or even another state, I always want to make sure that I'm welcomed by that particular country, by that particular land, and it's just so important. I'm very sensitive to it.
Yeah, it's true. It is. Understanding language helps you understand the landscape in which you're travelling. It helps you understand the traditional owner groups who care for that country. And I think once you dig a bit deeper, it like looking at features in the landscape start to make sense, and that gets back to that ancient history and occupation in regards to us being the oldest continuing surviving culture on the planet, and the way in which we've managed extreme weather events, but also managed country in a way that has been sustainable.
Exactly.
I think there's a lot that we could all learn from those understandings. So yeah,
absolutely. And Keith, you're a descendant, aren't you, of the people that were massacred at Myall Creek? Could you talk to us about the significance of what happened there, and discuss the memorial that's coming up?
Yeah, I mean, Myall Creek is unique because it was the first time in our colonial history where perpetrators were arrested and tried in a court of law, and some were arrested again and retried and found guilty and were hung for their crime. And it's unique in that sense. It didn't stop massacres from occurring. An argument could be made that massacres probably increased across the country in its ferocity. The condoning of frontier violence was part of that larger project of expansion. But Myall Creek, we can now reflect back on and say that this was one time that a shed of light pierced into the dark, ugly blackness of our colonial history, and it was the one time that good people done a good thing, and when we're thinking about that in the context of frontier conflict, which from our records has been documented, taking place right up to the 1930s, I think, from memory. That's a pretty brutal history, So, Myall Creek's unique in that sense. It's carried out by 12 people. 11 were convict or ex-convict workers that rode into Myall Creek Station. Those 11 people were joined by one staff member from Myall Creek Station who joined in the utter violence that was subjected to defenceless women, children, and old men on that pretty horrific day. 11 of the 12 that carried out that massacre were arrested initially. They were all acquitted within, I think, 5 minutes of the case being arrested. It was, I think, unfortunate that we had just a quick thinking lawyer who managed to rearrest 7 of the perpetrators, George Plunkett, and he had those 7 retrialled, and they were then found guilty and hung. That case was meant to provide, I suppose, a bit of context for Aboriginal Australia that what was happening at that time throughout the country would not be acceptable and would not go unpunished. But obviously, as the history books tell you, that continued indiscriminately for quite a number of years afterwards.
I'm so glad that you were able to talk about that, because that's really, really powerful. So you're saying that there was acquittal, but then what happened after that? Was there a breakthrough after that? Was anyone actually brought to justice?
Well, there was quotes by jury members in the papers at the time that quoted jury members saying, "We knew they were guilty, but we were never going to see a white man hung for killing a black."
Wow.
I think that tells us all the mindset of the day and the weight of our historical legacy, and the I suppose the way in which the colonial project was being undertaken at the time. So if it wasn't for the Chief Prosecutor George Plunkett, who also has an incredible history, he helped found a number of really important institutions in Sydney, and I don't think he's been given his dues historically in rearresting 7 of the 11 that were acquitted. As soon as they were acquitted, they were arrested on the same day. That they wouldn't have seen the justice they received. So his quick thinking in rearresting him resulted in the retrial and the second trial, which brought about the guilty verdict and resulting in those 7 being hung.
So they were hung in the end?
Yes, those 7 out of the 11 that were trialled.
I see what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah. The only one person that never saw a day in court was the person that actually organised the massacre, and he was the only free settler. that took part in the massacre. He was not of convict or ex-convict background, and unfortunately, he never saw a day in court. We had during our 180th anniversary a couple of years ago. We had descendants of his family attend the memorial, and they spoke really beautifully at the memorial, and descendants of the survivors of the massacre embraced descendants of the perpetrators on that day, and it was really a raw thing for particularly a lot of the descendants of the survivors and the massacres. But I think the beauty of the memorial itself is the fact that we were able to come together to remember the events on that day, whether you are a descendant of the survivors or the perpetrators, or descendants of those that were part of the judicial process, because we've had descendants of those attend as well, or just descendants of Australians that have built a life here in this country over 1, 2, 3 or more generations. It really shows us all as a country the way that we could deal with our history in a mature way, without looking at it from a perspective of a black or white armband history of Australia, but look at the space where the rubber hits the road, so to speak.
Keith, can you imagine? I mean, you would be able to imagine, I think, or even look at the reality of the transgenerational trauma that the survivors experienced, and then to come together in such a powerful way every year, even with the descendants of the people that were massacred, but also the descendants of the perpetrators. That would be just wonderful, wouldn't it, for that to happen?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, intergenerational trauma is a real thing. For people to read about this in papers and whatnot, we can become desensitised to that. We look at figures around deaths in custody or stolen generation or various health impacts or youth suicide or this, that, and the other, and all those measures around closing the gap and that they are all connected and linked to other things which go back to not just people's immediate lived experience, but their families' lived experience and their grandparents' lived experience and their great-grandparents' lived. And it's not until you get to look at that from not the first or the second, but the third perspective, you can understand how that trauma then gets perpetuated onto the next generation and how it manifests in different ways. And the committee done a really amazing thing when it first formed in 1988, when they first met at Myall Creek, and had descendants of the perpetrators come together with descendants of the survivors in the victims of the massacre, and like-minded community members to form the committee that then set aside to create the memorial, which was then launched in 2000.
Fantastic.
Since that day, it's just enabled us to create a meeting space to remember that story, a space where we can all come together and pay our respects to that.
Tell us where it is, Keith. Can you give us some details about, what date, where it is?
So the memorial itself is it's near a small town in the northern tablelands called Bingra. It's up in the northwest of New South Wales. I suppose the closest regional centres would be Tamworth and Armidale. But the Myall Creek Memorial is on the Bingra to Delungra Road. It's about 5 kilometres or so outside Bingra. There's signage on the entrances to the site itself. But we've worked really hard, the committee as a whole, to develop the site to where it's at the moment. We've just completed the Stage 2 building development where, thanks to a grant we received from Create New South Wales Regional Arts Fund, we were able to create an amphitheatre, a bus and car park, amenities block, because up until then there were no toilets out at the site. So every Memorial weekend we'd have to use the hall, which was located down on the other side of Myall Creek, and we'd have to hire some portaloos and use the small number of resources that was there. And then we've also created an Indigenous bush garden out there and undertaken some cultural landscaping in an elders shaded area. The site itself is pretty special. It gets visited quite a lot throughout the year. Pre-COVID, there was estimated around 400 people would be travelling there every week.
So it's on the long weekend, isn't it? Sorry to interrupt. It's really great that you've given us all this detail. So it's on the long weekend, isn't it? Is that on the 13th of June that people gather? And where will they go exactly?
Yeah, so the long weekend, the memorial itself is on Sunday the 12th of June.
Beautiful, yep.
There's a community concert taking place on Saturday the 11th in Bingra at the Roxy Theatre. The special guest speaker this year is James Wilson Miller, who's a local historian, author. He was really critical in the early history of Myall Creek, alongside a local community member from Bingra, Len Payne. And so it's really great that James has been able to come full circle and be our guest speaker this year. James will also be undertaking a program at the University of New England in Armidale on Friday the 10th of June, which is, I think it's also an online event. So people
the performers,
log into that. But we've tried to expand it so it's more than just a one-day event now.
Yeah, of course.
So people making use of their time while they're up in the
It's pretty important, isn't it? I mean, I think last year the speaker was Lyndall Ryan, I believe.
Yeah.
I did quite a few interviews with her about the frontier wars and frontier violence. We talked quite a bit about the digital map. And in fact, last week when we were talking with Cecilia, we talked about also the heritage listing as well, that it's become a heritage listing over there at Myall Creek.
Yeah. I mean, we've had state and national heritage listings for quite some time now. But Lyndall did mention with her map, and it's such an important project that, she's had a remarkable response by Victorian communities throughout the state who have, come to her and her team, possibly identifying new sites to add to that map, which is just amazing. And that's the thing that, we like to think as a country, this is the place that we're at the moment, that we're mature enough as a country to have these conversations and not look at it from one extreme perspective or another. It's like, this is our history. Like, you can't change that history. Let's just create a space where we can talk about it like adults.
I'm so glad you've mentioned Victoria, because we actually doing time show is actually based in 3CR is actually based in Melbourne, and it's really important that there's massacres added everywhere, all over Australia. But Victoria has had very few up until recently, I think.
I think there has been a lot more that's been added from my recollection of her talk, and that's really amazing, because that tells me that as a state, like you are leading the way in this space. That you've got the Treaty Commission down there. I think there's a lot that we can all learn as Aboriginal people in other states.
There's so much work to be done, though. There's so much work to be done. Keith, before you go, do you want to just... I also wanted to honour your grandfather, Uncle Lyle Munro. Can you say a few words about him? What do you...
He was an amazing man. He taught me a lot as a person in life. He's a big loss still to our family. He was a really important leader of our people. Missed very much still to this day. He taught the world of the Myall Creek community. And I'm just happy to carry on the work that he's created and follow those instructions that he passed on to me, and hope that we're all doing him proud, and not just him, but all of. We've lost a lot of direct descendants over the last 12 months, which has been really hard because obviously stage 2 has been really important, which is what we've just completed, but stage 3 is where we're heading, which is the actual building of a permanent space on the site.
Good.
And it makes me sad that they won't get to see that in their lifetime. And that's why it's really sharpened my focus to try and get this done as a priority now, so that our elders get to see that in the flesh before it's time for them to go to the dream time and hopefully carry out their wishes and see their dreams for that building come to fruition. So yeah.
And I'm hoping that will happen very soon, and that we can all support each other to do that work. I mean, it is Reconciliation Week. We haven't had time to really talk about that, but really, I think you and I have conducted our own reconciliation event today during our interview. And look, reconciliation means a lot to some Aboriginal people, and for some Aboriginal people it means nothing. A lot of Aboriginal people do not, will celebrate things in different ways.
Yeah, and we get. I mean, our the Aboriginal experience is very different, and it's localised. It's I come from this very staunch family, very proud and vocal, and very upfront, and also quite comfortable in being critical about things as well. So I completely understand that perspective, and I mean, for me as a co-chair of this committee, it's just important that we continue to do the work that we have done, and to make sure that we're all heading in the same direction as a committee. And that's the wonderful thing about our committee. It's made up of 50% Aboriginal, 50% non-Aboriginal people.
Yeah.
We have an Aboriginal and a non-Aboriginal co-chair. But if and it's never happened, but if there is a case where the decision on an item is split 50-50, we have in our constitution that the decision will rest with the Aboriginal voice.
Sure.
And that's the amazing thing about the work of our committee. We do things as a whole, and that work. We've been able to achieve some amazing things so far, and look forward to continue that over the next few years.
And I look forward to chatting with you further. The Doing Time show has had a very, very long tradition of not only commemorating events such as these and anniversaries, but also having all communities, in particular First Nations people, to tell their stories. And I'm so honoured to have you here, Keith. Are there any final comments that you want to make before we finish?
No, I mean, I'm really excited. We get a lot of school kids that travel to the memorial every year from Queensland. I think we do have some schools travelling up from Victoria this year, and that used to make my grandfather and particularly all of our elders really proud, because in regards to the Queensland group, they're already on holidays. I don't know if you realise this, but they're on holidays during that first week of the long weekend. So for those kids to give up their holidays to come down to the memorial and participate in the memorial event is pretty amazing, and it says a lot to me about the school, the culture that has been driven in those schools, but also the parents of those kids that are travelling down. And I really think that with more and more awareness of the memorial event, more people travelling up to the memorial from all over the country, I hope that starts a conversation when people are travelling back home, about what they can do as change makers.
Very much change makers. That's a great word. Keith, thank you so much for coming onto the program. It's been great having you. Is it okay if I invite you again later on in the year to give a little bit of a report back?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
That'd be great. All right, Keith. Well, thank you so much. You take care of yourself.
Same. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks, same. Bye-bye.
Bye.
3CR. Throughout the month of June, we'll be asking you, the listener, to support radical, community-owned media during our radiothon.
We'll be taking donations online, over the phone, and in the station to help keep 3CR going for another year.
Independent community media is vital, and we need your support to keep community strong.
The 3CR Radiothon kicks off in June.
To donate, go to 3cr.org.au, call the station on 03 9419 8377,
or drop in at 21 Smith Street, Fitzroy during business hours.
3CR.
Keep community strong.
And you're back with the Doing Time show, and we're going to be speaking pretty soon with Alan Maybury, who is the senior lawyer at Environmental Justice Australia. But before we do, I just wanted to acknowledge that we've just had an interview with Keith Munro, who talked a lot about the Myall Creek Massacre, and we commemorated a memorial that was happening this year. Environmental Justice Australia and the Human Rights Law Centre are urging the Andrews government to withdraw a draconian proposed new law that would criminalise peaceful protest. The Sustainable Forest Timber Amendment Timber Harvesting Safety Zones Bill 2022 was introduced by the Victorian government last week and would see protesters who are attempting to prevent native forest logging in Victoria face fines of up to $21,000 or 12 months in jail. I'll give a little bit of intro, and I wanted to welcome Alan to the show. I'm actually a forest defender myself and have had a history of blockading over quite a few years, and I'm now kind of taking a little bit of a backseat to the blockading for now, and I'm doing media about this very important topic. The Doing Time show is also providing a vehicle for this interview because of the fact that, obviously if people are going to be in prison, that's a ridiculous thing under these circumstances, criminalisation. Hello, Ellen. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Marissa. Nice to join you from Wurundjeri country this afternoon.
Thank you so much. Yes, Alan, I'm wondering if you could just talk about what on earth is going on with the Victorian government and tell us give us a bit of background about what's going on.
Yeah, definitely, Marissa. So, the context is in the face, really, of recent catastrophic bushfires, and, we're seeing our climate and ecosystems collapse before our eyes. Really, the right to protest illegal logging is something that we need to protect, but at the moment, we're seeing context where Vic Forest is facing 9 court cases brought by the community, but instead of regulating the logging industry and cracking down on illegal logging, the Victorian government is trying to introduce extraordinary new penalties and possible jail time to stop concerned citizens from protesting. Really, we see this as a politically motivated crackdown on legitimate political expression. That's sort of the context in which this bill has come about.
I find that really surprising, given that there are already laws in place to deal with crime, and it sounds to me as though the Andrews government is really embarking on, protecting the commercial interests of the logging industry.
That's exactly right, Marissa. And I mean, the Act is already in place, so the bill is to amend the Act to increase some of the fines and penalties in the legislation. The media...
Oh, hang on, there's a train coming. Oh, I'm actually doing this show remotely outside and outside on a balcony in regional Victoria. Okay, go on. Sorry, Ellen. Yep.
No problem at all.
Go.
I was just saying, this legislation already exists, and the bill is really to amend it to introduce tougher and harsher penalties than those that are already in legislation. The media release from the government refers to health and safety concerns as the impetus for making the changes, but as other media is reporting, there hasn't been any sort of evidence provided that actually is an issue that needs changes made to the legislation that already exists.
So this is a draft law at the moment, is it? Which is marking the continuation of quite an alarming trend, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct, a trend that we're seeing in other states as well. But that's right, Marissa. So it was a draft bill that was presented last week in Parliament, and debate has been held over to the 8th of June.
And this is in Victoria you're talking about?
That's correct, yes.
I think in Tasmania there was a similar law, but that was quashed, wasn't it?
That's right. My understanding is that process is still ongoing, and there's been a number of attempts in Tasmania to introduce similar legislation and similar concerns raised there.
This is actually most disturbing, given that there have been protesters going to the forests over many years. And I suppose I really also wanted to make the distinction here, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Ellen, and that is that when we talk about the logging industry, we're not necessarily talking just about the workers. We're talking about the logging industry and the rich multinationals at the top, aren't we?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the legislation isn't making any distinction, and it's, really just applying to particular areas set aside for logging. And, some of the offences where the bill is proposing increased penalties are things such as entering one of those areas.
Okay, so the timber bill is already in existence. That's preposterous. So they're wanting to actually add on about criminalisation of protest. There's nothing in there about that.
Yeah, so if it's helpful, I'm happy to sort of give a summary.
Please, that would be amazing. Thank you, Ellen.
I mean, one of the main changes being proposed is that people who effectively aim to prevent logging in those logging areas can now face up to 12 months jail time or a $21,000 fine. But for a lot of other more minor offences where fines used to be $3,000, the proposed change is to increase those to $10,000. And those are activities such as entering one of the timber harvesting areas, remaining there, possessing a prohibited thing, allowing a dog to enter those areas. So there's some of the sort of main changes around fines, but then there are also matters like PVC and metal pipes being added to the prohibited items list in the legislation, and also some increased powers for authorised officers under the legislation. So a power now to be able to search bags and vehicles, and to be able to ban people from areas for up to a month. So, the existing legislation is there, but these changes are really, really increasing the penalties and offences within the legislation.
Definitely a crackdown on legitimate political expression. And so what's the position of Environmental Australia, and what's some of the work that it's doing at the moment to combat that?
Yeah, so our position, I guess initially is set out in our media release that we put out last week with the Human Rights Law Centre, is that really this legislation is really a crackdown on legitimate political expression, and the bill should be withdrawn by the Andrews government and abandoned, and instead they should be focusing on properly regulating the logging industry and cracking down on illegal logging. Really, that's where their energy should be focused. So from our end, we're continuing to advocate and get that message out there, and we just today have launched a petition on our website that people can head to our website and sign that petition.
And what is the website?
Sorry, what's the website?
Sorry, can you just tell us the website?
Yeah, sure. It's envirojustice, all one word, .org.au.
Oh, are you still there?
Yes, can you hear me, Marissa?
Yeah, you just cut out. So
sorry.
Tell me the website again. That's right.
It's envirojustice.org.au.
Envirojustice.org.au. So basically, I mean, as of now, Vic Forest is facing 9 court cases brought by the community. I wonder if Daniel Andrews knows that.
I would hope that he is aware of that, yes. But, I think that's really the extraordinary thing here, is that the community is having to step in to bring Vic Forest, which is a state-owned entity, to account for illegal logging.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, the reason why I invited you on the show, Alan, is really not only to talk about the forest, but also to draw attention to listeners. We've actually got a listenership inside of people in prison, and we look a lot at that, particularly women in prison and First Nations people who, as you know, are overrepresented in incarceration. And, you know, the prison experience is very ugly, and I'm really quite surprised, you know, that the Victorian government is considering this situation. It's very hypocritical, given that the Victorian government talks a lot about treaty and talks a lot about the rights of First Nations people, and yet they're wanting to put in penalties to forests and also lock children up as well.
Yeah, I agree, Marissa. I mean, really what we're seeing is that people are seeing what's happening to our climate and ecosystems, and seeing that no action is being taken against logging companies, and so acting themselves to protect those ecosystems. And really, rather than address that key issue, exactly what you're saying, that this proposed legislation is potentially leading to imprisonment for individuals, which, as you've touched on, you know, then flows on to a huge raft of consequences for individuals and for society.
It's such an act of absolute betrayal to specifically the Aboriginal people. And, you know, I'm quite disgusted. Can you tell us a little bit about Environmental Australia and what some of the work that it does?
Yeah, happily, Marissa. So we're a donor-funded organisation that really is working with community groups to commence legal proceedings and undertake other public policy and other work to really fight for protection of our environment. So we work in spaces like climate change, coal and ecosystems, which is where this work that we're talking about now falls. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much for coming onto the program. It's been lovely to have you, Ellen. And I'm wondering if you've got any final comments to make before we finish. Yeah, I mean, I really would just like to reiterate that really what we're seeing is a failure of the government to regulate the logging industry, and that this bill that has been introduced is proposing extremely harsh criminal penalties, and what we're saying is a politically motivated crackdown on legitimate political expression. And so we would ask people to visit our website and sign our petition and watch there for further updates as we continue to raise the message about the real intentions behind this bill, and we'll keep people updated that way, Marissa.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Thanks a lot for that.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hi, we're the Marindas, and you're listening to 3CR Community Radio 855 AM.
I hope you know this time's for good. Wouldn't come back now, even if I could. 'Cause I'm a big girl now, all on my own. Won't you please tell Mum and Dad I'm not coming home? 'Cause I'm in love with a boy like you. I hope you feel it too. I hope you feel it too. 'Cause I'm in love with a boy like you. I hope you feel it too. I hope you feel it too. And remember to breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, like you used to. Sitting in a white room with white walls, thinking, where did we go wrong? Was it really me? Or maybe you all along? Does she touch your ear like I used to? I know you like it. Does she kiss you there like I used to? I know you like it. 'Cause I'm in love with a boy like you. I hope you feel it too. I hope you feel it too. 'Cause I'm in love with a boy like you. I hope you feel it too. I hope you feel Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out.
And you're back with the Doing Time show. And that was Breathe In, Breathe Out by Thelma Plum, who's a lovely Indigenous musician. I was just getting lost in the music there. It's been quite an interesting show today. Lots of really strong things that came up. And it's approximately 4:51, and we're nearing the end of our show. Wanted to thank both Keith and Alan for coming on to the show today. And pretty soon we'll be finishing. But I just wanted to just talk about Radiothon very briefly again, and give a little bit of information for listeners prior to Radiothon. So the theme for Radiothon at the moment is for this year is Keep Communities Strong. And so we've got the Community Language Radiothon, which is starting on the 6th of June and ending on the 12th of June. And then the General Radiothon is from the 13th to the 19th of June. And you've got the Gardening Radiothon show, which starts on the 26th of June as well. And with the Doing Time show specifically, we have $850 to raise for our target. And last year it was a little bit difficult to raise that money. We've actually met our target for many years now, but I think we'll just let that train go past. Yeah, so it's been okay with reaching the target, but last year I think because of the pandemic and because there was a lot of of financial hardship that's happened to a lot of our communities. In particular, with the Doing Time show, we actually work with a lot of marginalised communities and look at the people that have been targeted by the police and a lot of vulnerable communities as well. So I'm wondering if people can dig deep into their pockets today or on the 13th of June when our Radiothon is on and see if they can donate. It's tax deductible. The donation will be tax deductible. So, it's 3CR's proudly community owned, and we've been on air since 1976, and which is a massive achievement, really, made possible by years of community fundraising. And this year, the target for 3CR overall is $250,000, and it takes a lot of collective effort to reach this goal. And to get there, we need all of your help, and hopefully we can reach that target. So donate to all shows at 3CR, and specifically, as I said, the Doing Time show needs to stay on air for another year, and the target is $850 this year. So we'll be back next week at the same time from 4 to 5 p.m. for the Doing Time show. And thanks again to our lovely people, our lovely guests that came today. Very special people. And we've done extended interviews for both Keith and Alan. And if people, I'm hoping, will rock up to the Myall Creek Memorial to commemorate the massacre that happened in the 1800s. So it's goodbye from Marissa, and stay tuned for the next show, which is Climate Action coming up. And stay strong and well and look after each other. And of course, even though there's no lockdown, we're still in a pandemic. Communities, particularly Aboriginal communities, are very under-resourced, and it's so important to look after each other and do the right thing. So goodbye from Marissa for sure now. And stay tuned every Monday from 4 to 5 for the Doing Time show. We're going to be going out now with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella, by the Rumpy Band. Bye.
what you colour, as long as you a true fella, as long as you a real fella. All the people of different races with different lives in different places. It doesn't matter what your name is. We got to have lots of changes. We need more brothers if we're to make it. We need more sisters if we're to save it. Are you the one who's gonna stand up and be counted? Are you the one who's gonna be there when we're shouting? Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands this family plan? Black fella, white fella, yellow fella, any fella, it doesn't matter what you color, as long as you a true fella. All the people of different races with different lives in different places. It doesn't matter which religions, it's all the same where the ship is sinking. We need more brothers if we're to make it. We need more sisters if we're to save it. Are you the one who's gonna stand up and be counted? Are you the one who's gonna be there when we shout it? Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands this family plan? Stand up and be counted. Stand up and be counted. Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands this family plan? Are you the one who's always...
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast produced in the studios of independent community radio station 3CR in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, go to allthews.3cr.org.au.